So today we're going to be talking about community engagement. We've got a brilliant case study from an area I actually know quite well, which is the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead. So really looking forward to hearing more about the work that the team there have been doing and really the tech behind Hello Lamppost and how it can help with community engagement. So I'm your host for today. So I'm Darren Caveney. I'm the creator of Comms 2.0 and owner of Creative Communicators Limited. So thanks to Tiernan and to Kathy and to Francesca for the invite for hosting this today. So it's a lunch and learn for me as well. So I don't have a coffee, I've got a water, but I'm really looking forward to dipping in and just finding out a little bit more. I know a little bit about Hello Lamppost, and it sounds like some really interesting tech and how it can help busy comms teams and engagement teams. So really looking forward to hearing more about it today. So we'll do some intros to the panel very shortly. I say we've got a great set of insights to get from each of the panel members. As I say, just in terms of housekeeping very quickly, you'll notice we're videoing, so there will be a recording available which you can share with colleagues and others in your teams back at work. So yeah, so that we've got the recording which will come out to you. If you can stay on mute for now, that will be great. If you can leave your cameras on, great, because it's lovely to see your smiling faces. Always good to put. Well done, Andrea. I like it. That was quite impressive. So Andrea's excited for the workshop. So hello to Andrea. So yeah, leave your cameras on if you can. If you haven't done your hair, leave them off. That's okay. So we'll get you to leave your microphones off just for now. We're really keen to get questions from you. I mean, I've got questions for the panel, but we're really more interested in getting your questions. So do put your questions into the chat area. And Francesca's going to be monitoring that, and we'll be raising questions for the panel as we go through. So say hello, introduce yourself, say where you're from, what you do, and put any questions into the chat if you could. That would be great. So I'm going to shut up and move across to the stars of this lunch and learn, who we've got for about 45 minutes. So yeah, first up, I'd like to introduce and hear a little bit from Steph.
Hi everyone, I'm Steph James. I'm the service lead for economic growth at the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead.
Great, thank you. And Steph's in the office today for the first time in a while, so that's good to see.
I am. I've got very corporate purple behind me for everyone to see. Yeah, very strange being back in the office. I have had to do my hair today. This is an effort.
Well, thank you, Steph, for making the effort. So thanks for that. Next up, we've got Tiernan. Hi, Tiernan. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming along. Yes, my name's Tiernan. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders at Hello Lamppost. Yeah, excited to tell you a little bit more how we're working with Windsor and Maidenhead.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tiernan. And finally, we have Kathy. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathy. I'm the co-founder and director of DigiKind, and I've been supporting Steph over at the Borough. It's nice to meet you all.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kathy. We've also got Francesca from Hello Lamppost, who's on the call with us today. As I say, Francesca's going to be just monitoring the conversation. Any thoughts or ideas or questions you've got, please put them in the chat, and Francesca will be monitoring that, and we'll raise that with the panel. So let's get straight into it. So I genuinely do know a little bit about the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead. I've done some work with the team there. It's a brilliant head of comms, Louisa. I don't know if she's on the call today. She's one of the busiest comms people I know. And there's a brilliant team that have been doing great work in terms of comms, marketing, engagement and tourism for a long time, actually. Everything from royal weddings to royal funerals, they've kind of dealt with it all, and COVID, of course. So kind of how on earth have you had time to also do some community engagement and innovate and try some new things? So really keen to find out a little bit more. So I suppose really over to you first, Steph, if you can kind of explain, what is it you're doing right now to engage with the community?
So at the moment, we're looking to engage both our business community and our residents in the reopening and recovery of the borough. Obviously, everyone has gone through the pandemic, and people have got through it in very different ways. And we really want to make sure that, as you mentioned, our borough is a fantastic borough. We are home to Windsor Castle, Legoland, Windsor and Ascot Racecourse, and it is a fabulous place to visit. But obviously COVID meant we lost our tourism, we lost our visitors, and we want to re-engage our community in the Royal Borough. So through the reopening, it was very much explore your Royal Borough, explore our Royal Borough, get people to realise what a fantastic borough they have on their doorstep. And also for our business community as well, we realised quite early on in the pandemic that we weren't engaging with all of our businesses in the community, and we were missing out on helping them, supporting them, and at the beginning of the pandemic, sharing vital information with them. So we needed to have a campaign that not only engaged our local residents and helped them come back and feel safe to re-engage with their local community, but also our businesses understanding how we can support them and recover from the pandemic and come back stronger as well.
Brilliant. That's really helpful as an intro, Steph. So obviously engagement, we hear the word a lot, don't we? And there's various ways of doing that. Obviously digital's one of the, the most important, if not the most important method now. So what have you been doing to engage with your residents and your businesses digitally? And where does Hello Lamppost fit into that plan?
So digitally, obviously social media campaigns, we've been running loads of social media throughout the pandemic. Again, as soon as we went into lockdown, all of our teams, so our visitor management team, our museum team and our town management team, all moved straight onto digital. We were doing it anyway, but all of our delivery moved onto digital, and we were supporting businesses that were already open, who were still trading, takeaways, essential businesses, also helping our community understand how they could find out more about their local area. So our museum team, for example, were absolutely fantastic. They moved from delivering, they were used to be front of house in the museum, and they moved to delivering everything online. So they were doing 1-minute wonders on YouTube, virtual tours, all kinds of activities so that people who were stuck at home and, coping with not being able to go out could still access really interesting information, find out where they could get a takeaway, find out where they could, those valuable public health messages as well. But we really coordinated across our teams. So again, pre-pandemic, we were maybe slightly siloed in terms of our comms out to the community, but we really worked together to coordinate our social media. Hello Lamppost was another stage of our community engagement. Now that we're unlocking, we really acknowledge that people are coming out more, but they are still nervous. People are, some people have more confidence than others. And we wanted to genuinely find out what people on the ground were thinking when they're coming back to visit our borough as well. So Hello Lamppost was a way of using another platform to engage with our local community.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. That confidence thing is really important and not talked about enough probably. So Tiernan, so Hello Lamppost, so people may or may not be aware of what it is that you do. Tell us a little bit more.
Sure. Yes, so for those who don't know, we're a software-based company, and we are a communication tool between kind of any physical environment and its end users. So for Windsor and Maidenhead, it's our streets and the town centres and the high streets, but all the way through to helping shopping centres, airports, museums, etc. And really, how we do that is we digitally activate objects within those environments. So it might be a bus stop or a statue or a parking meter or a bench, and allow people to have friendly chats with those objects using their own mobile phone. And objects become familiar with people and kind of almost build up a relationship with those visitors and those residents. And practically what it's about is about providing people with kind of key local information when they're in those environments, but also trying to understand more communities at scale. So working with Steph and the borough, it's like she said, it's understanding as part of the reopening, how are people feeling about coming back? What do they want to see in the future? What are their preferences and needs right now and going forwards? And that's facilitated via this kind of two-way interaction with objects where, whether it be a statue providing its history, or it's a bench providing kind of reopening guidance and information, but also asking people, how do you feel about coming back to the high street, or what do you want to see the future of your high street, or what do you want to see in this vacant shop? So that's kind of the platform in essence. But yeah, as I say, it can be deployed on objects on a high street all the way through to an airport or a museum.
So interesting, and I'm fascinated to know more about which objects we can and can't potentially use. So we'll get into the detail of that as we go. So yeah, thanks, Tiernan. And so Kathy, I mean, I know you, and you're an award winner, and so I know a little bit about you and your work. So where do you fit into this particular piece of work? Oh, Kathy, you're on mute.
Of course I am. So
we've all done it.
Someone has to be in this whole situation. So DigiKind is essentially, we're like your high street recovery experts. We help with the roadmap building and execution, and that's where we come into the picture. So we were brought in July to help with helping create that roadmap, that strategy. And as we worked on this with Steph and her team, we essentially moved in throughout lockdown into how can we helped Steph with building the website and building the marketing and doing all of the Insta meets and the placemaking and all of that good stuff. And then I learned about HLP through my business partner, Dave, and said, well, look at all these applications that HLP can bring to the borough. And so I liked it so much that I actually became an investor and an advisor to HLP. So that's my connection to HLP, because I think it's amazing. And I said to Steph and her team, why don't we take a look at this and think about implementing it across the borough? And so they looked at it and said, yeah, this is great. Let's think about how we can do it. So that's my connection to it. That's the full disclosure. So that's how I came into it. So we did just about everything we could do from a citizen engagement perspective, doing social, doing email campaigns. We worked on the Don't Let Your Guard Down campaign. That was actually Dave's idea. Dave said, I came to them saying, we need to reopen safely. And so, it was, how can we bring this all to bear, bring this all together, and how can we really reach people having two-way conversations? And HLP was the answer to that. So that's really how I kind of fit into it. So it's really, I help and I support the borough on the comms side and bringing the community building together. So what we bring is the approach to bringing digital transformation, community building, bringing that all together, and then finding the right tech solutions to plug in, and that's it.
That sounds really interesting. And so community engagement, it can be one of those buzzwords, can't it? We've all had it, kind of in-house people.
Totally.
We need more engagement. We need to be more engaging. Just following on from that, what is community engagement? What does it mean for you? And what does good look like? How do we get real, genuine community engagement?
I think it has a lot of different names, doesn't it? It can be community consultation or citizen participation or, public participation. And ultimately, I think it comes down to empowering communities to come together, involving the community in two-way conversations to focus on issues that impact them, and giving business intelligence to the decision makers to help them to create a better place, whether that's a more sustainable place, a more inclusive place, giving those decision makers the ability to make better decisions that are informed by the community. And then how can we find the right digital tools to do that? I think it's pretty simple when it comes down to it. How can we find the right digital tools in order to enable better public participation in the decision-making process? And what's, I think, kind of great about HLP and about other, these types of tools is that it's like a two-way decision-making, or a two-way conversation that you're having. And ultimately, it's about inclusivity and about using the right digital tools in order to empower people. And it's really powerful, isn't it? It's about democracy, and that's really empowering. Something Steph has said to me once in one of our conversations, it was, I want to future-proof the high street. And that was like one of the first times anyone's ever said that to me. And I just like, if I had, I'd take it off to her. It was just kind of like, how awesome is that you have this council that wants to fully empower their citizens and their residents and their visitors to future-proof their high street. I think that's just incredible and really exciting. And she really wants to reimagine her high street. I think that's cool, really cool.
This is cool. It's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, really exciting.
And that, you know, and obviously every high street, you know, up and down the UK is in a similar place, isn't it? You know, more or less.
We're all in the same boat.
There are closed shops even on the most affluent of high streets. There are closed up shops, and what do we do with them? And so it's a challenge for certainly local authority, isn't it? So Tiernan, obviously you're on the tech side, but this is about using tech for good, isn't it? So what does good community engagement look like for you in terms of, you know, the technology?
Yeah, I think for us and for me personally, you know, even before more digital solutions started evolving, I think if I look at community engagement, it still means the same thing. But I think digital just means making that easier for more people. So when I think about community engagement, I think it's about the ease of access to local information and the decisions being made, but also the ability for more voices to shape kind of our communities and the areas that we live, work and play in. So for me, that's remained consistent, and the digital, when, you know, us and other digital tools are just enabling more people to have that access to information and decision making, but also the ability to feed back and shape their local areas or the places that they visit, or their local communities. So for me, my kind of perception of community engagement hasn't changed pre-digital, post-digital. You know, looking forwards, it's just you know, we're consistently and continuously producing new ways as society to do that for more people.
Fantastic. So Steph, obviously from your perspective, you'll be one of, you know, hundreds of thousands of public sector workers who've just gone through like the hardest 15 months probably ever. So how has community engagement gone kind of during COVID? People keep saying, oh, now we're through COVID. Well, we're not, are we? We're living with COVID for the foreseeable, possibly forever. So what does community engagement look like through that kind of 15-month journey, and where is it kind of at now?
Do you know, and I think it has been a huge journey, and certainly not ended. Community engagement at the beginning of the webinar was really about beginning of the pandemic, was really about finding out who our vulnerable were as well. You know, there were people hidden within the community who we didn't know about, and actually it was about finding out who those people were and how we could access those people and help them. And then community engagement was about reaching out to our local community organisations, our charities, all those community groups to mobilise and help get through those initial stages of the pandemic. And I think there wasn't a one-size-fits-all way of reaching out to people. You know, building on what Kathy and Tiernan has said, you know, community engagement is using lots of different mechanisms to reach people, whether that be physically, which obviously became a lot harder during the pandemic, to using more innovative digital solutions. But it was using absolutely every opportunity to reach out to our local community. But one of the things we did find through the pandemic was people quite quickly digitally upskilled. And, you know, there are still people who are afraid of technology, but quite a lot of people very quickly learned. And again, you saw younger generations teaching older generations how to use Zoom, how to use Facebook Live, because they weren't able to have those traditional physical interactions that they really wanted. So it has been an incredible journey seeing people grow through the pandemic and how people have had those relationships without physically being able to see each other. And as a local authority, I think it has allowed us to engage more broadly through digital, council meetings going online. We all saw some disasters online, but actually we also saw that people felt that they could engage. They didn't want to sit in a stuffy council chamber listening to meetings. They wanted to sit on their armchair at home with a glass of wine shouting at their screen. It was another way of introducing people to the world of democracy. They could engage in different ways through digital. And I think before you had to have a certain level of confidence to engage in local authority meetings, because you had to feel confident that you would turn up and, it's quite intimidating for people if you've not been in that environment. So I think it made people want to engage in democracy, want to engage in their community. So I hope that as we, unlock and we emerge out of the pandemic, we can keep that engagement going. And again, pre-pandemic, we would have, if we had a consultation, we might have had a pop-up stand on the high street or used an empty shop, which I think is still important. You'll still capture people through those mechanisms. But I think we've just got to look at using community engagement being a lot broader than it was before. And also looking at people who should be engaging but aren't. How can we reach out to those people that we know are not engaging? And that could be through things like Hello Lamppost. But looking at your demographic in your local community, making sure that you are getting the results back from your consultations that are representative, not just taking that first batch of responses and tick a box that you've consulted. So I think, the pandemic has taught us a lot about engagement, and we've got a lot still to learn, I think. And it's been incredible seeing the community pull together as well, and help support vulnerable within our community, help support the local economy as well. We've seen a real shift towards supporting local business. And, we talk about the death of the high street. I think it's just a transition of our high streets. And we've probably accelerated a lot of change that was happening already. And now people want to know the makers, they want to know the producers, they want to understand where their products come from and have fantastic customer service. So this is all part of the evolution of our high streets, hopefully for the better in the future.
That's a brilliant answer, Steph. Thank you. And yeah, you're right. I think local council meetings online, it's better than Netflix, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So so if I'm a cynical chief exec, and there's a few about, so that all sounds great, but what has it delivered? What kind of impacts have you seen? What results are you beginning to get from this?
I think long term you'll have more efficient use of resources by actually understanding your community, understanding what people want, and asking those questions. You won't spend money on things that people don't want. You'll actually be able to target your resources efficiently, and you'll then be able to get genuine buy-in from the community as well to do other projects. If people don't like being done to, they want to feel part of the process. And if you can use community engagement to bring people along the journey, you will have less moans, you'll have less complaints, you will actually feel that people can come and engage with the local authority in a positive way. And I think you will just see more efficient use of resources rather than, carrying out a project somewhere and you haven't engaged well with your local community and it kicks off because everyone complains and you have to reverse that decision. Actually, if you'd done your engagement right at the beginning, you would have something that was fit for purpose at the end and you might not double spend your money. So, community engagement, again, you'll get some people who see it as a tick box exercise, a pain in the backside, but actually if you do it right and you do it well, you'll have a really decent outcome at the end of it.
That's really interesting. I've now got low traffic neighbourhoods in my head as one of the biggest areas for consultation, either done not very well or needs to be done better in the future. So
we had a great example with alfresco dining as well. Trying to take away parking spaces to support local businesses to reopen and have outdoor dining. Really controversial. You're supporting a local business, but people love their parking. It's the same kind of thing.
Absolutely. They've done exactly the same in Birmingham city centre, and it looks amazing, and hopefully we'll be there next week to check that out. So thanks for that, Steph. So obviously Tiernan, as Steph says, it's kind of part of a journey. What next for Hello Lamppost and Windsor and Maidenhead specifically?
So I mean we're just at the start of the journey really with Windsor and Maidenhead. So we've launched our sort of first phase, if you like. So there's a number of objects in and around Windsor to start with. That's set to kind of roll out across various benches and landmarks and statues and another object throughout the town centre, and then moving on to other areas of the borough as well. And again, all driven around giving people key local information, whilst also hearing their opinions and feedback and sentiment as time goes on. And like Steph said, I think it's super important, you know, not only in that borough but around the world, that there is a continuous kind of finger on the pulse, if you like, as to what people are feeling and their preferences, so that the boroughs can make more informed decisions or better informed decisions. For us as a business, as a tool, we're launching in different areas around the world, helping local authorities around the world, from city of San Francisco to Sydney, with many different use cases. You know, it always surprises me at how similar issues that are being had around the world. But yeah, not only local authorities. So we're helping university campuses. We're set to be helping hospital campuses. Others I mentioned before, so museums and attractions, especially important as everything starts opening up again, especially in a kind of COVID-safe way. So that's us looking forwards, is just deploying in new areas and trying to help more and more communities. It always surprises me at the number of kind of different use cases that are coming up, from kind of helping residents shape their tax budget through to, you know, construction consultation and master plans, low traffic neighbourhoods, reopening the high streets, creating cultural and heritage trails, and then, you know, the list goes on. But yeah, essentially our ambition really is to create a communication kind of interface between any physical realm and its end user around the world. But yeah, super excited about the next few months. Look out for announcements with Windsor and Maidenhead.
Fantastic, we will, and I'm looking forward to getting down there in person. So I've got tons of questions, but we'll open it up to the attendees shortly. So, Steph, I suppose something else that's just floating around in my head as a comms person. What are residents saying? Are residents happy to be communicated and engaged with it, you know, using technology? What are you finding so far?
Do you know, I think you've got horses for courses. You know, some residents will want more traditional methods of engagement, but the point is offering a whole variety of ways to engage. And like you said at the beginning, you know, some people are more nervous about speaking to people face to face now. They are more nervous about going inside and talking to people. So this offers another way for people to put their views across, but in a very safe way for them. And again, some people, you know, it's a fun way to do it as well. So you might actually get a younger generation who we do struggle to engage with, might go, oh, okay, let's have a go with that. And you're getting a new point of view across. So I think it's, you know, it's about offering those options. And, you know, some people may still want that face-to-face or that phone call or a traditional consultation questionnaire, but it's offering all those options to make sure you get people in different ways.
It's so true, isn't it? I was on my own high street last Saturday with my kids, and they said, "Can we get something to eat?" I said, "Yeah, let's pop in X coffee shop." And they said, "Can't we order online?" They physically didn't want to go into the premises. I said, "But we're outside. Why would we order online? Order online and get it delivered to home." And it just blew my mind. I thought we've got so much to learn with engaging with young people and tech. But yeah, so. I've got tons of questions, but I'm going to open it up for people. Francesca, is there anything coming out in terms of thoughts or questions in the chat so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you to everyone that's already posted some questions. A couple have already been answered, but first question would be from Ryan, who has asked, what is the council doing to spread the word about this new method of engagement?
So we're very much at the start of the journey at the moment in terms of HLP. So we've got a bit of a soft launch going on at the moment. So we've been spreading the word through our social media channels, and obviously there is the physical signage that is up in Windsor at the moment that people can see. But as we kind of roll out more across our street furniture in Windsor, we will ramp up our comms in terms of press releases, social media. We'll do some interviews on the radio, all sorts of things. So again, every possible way we can communicate, we will be doing it. And it's across all of our channels as well. So we're not just relying on one channel, we're using multiple channels. So Visit Windsor, My Royal Borough, Make Maidenhead, our Windsor and Royal Borough Museums team, and our corporate comms channel. So we're making sure that we're really consistent across all of our channels to spread the word as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Steph. And any other questions from attendees, Francesca?
Yeah, absolutely. They're all kind of flooding through now, which is fantastic.
I'll go for it.
So we've got one from Brandon who says, what level of engagement have you been witnessing? And is there any particular surprises, for example, over 70s with iPhones?
I guess I could add in a little bit there. In terms of Windsor, I mean, considering there's only a few objects live, it's pretty encouraging, and that's only set to increase. And in terms of the platform generally, it completely ranges, and it all depends on what objects you activate in which areas. Usually we try and pick areas of high footfalls and high dwell times, so high streets is kind of a perfect scenario. But I mean, our highest thing ever engagement rate we've had was, I think, about 3,000 people, 4,000 people in 8 days. But it's designed really for context, just to be a touch point or touch points within the community. They're always there to provide fresh information and ask people questions. In terms of surprises, yeah, continuously, probably on a weekly basis. But especially in people's responses, I think the platform's designed pretty well to kind of encourage people to think creatively, think about their preferences, and that's kind of an important point in it being anonymous, is it allows people to be kind of more honest in their responses. So I guess the short answer to that is, yeah, we're constantly surprised by people's interactions and responses.
Thanks, Tiernan. Yeah, Francesca, I can see there's lots of questions flooding in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess this is another question to Tiernan again, just to explain a little bit more about how it works, but if it works in different languages and things like that.
Yeah, short answer is yes. It works in different languages. In terms of how it works, I guess just a brief point is for a user, like Steph said, we'll deploy QR codes or instructions on objects, so whether it be a bench or a lamppost, and then a user's free to kind of use their own mobile phone, and that will direct them into usually SMS, but it can also be WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or a mobile browser. So the user doesn't even need a smartphone, it can just function on SMS, and there's kind of a two-way conversation that happens.
Fantastic. Yeah, Francesca, more questions?
Yeah, I can go for it. So thank you, Kate, for your question. So that was, which objects generate the most engagement and participation?
I'd say a variety. Typically what we find is the most popular thing to do is activate a combination between kind of landmarks, points of interest, but also everyday objects that are importantly in high footfall and high dwell time areas. So in Windsor, for example, benches all across the town centre, but actually what the borough has creatively done as part of the reopening is actually install full-size guard cutouts across the borough, which I'd encourage anyone to go and look at Twitter. It's gone a bit viral, which is great, and we've actually activated those as objects, so someone can go up to a guard and say hello guard and start talking to those objects. So yeah, it's usually a combination between everyday inanimate objects, but also landmarks and points of interest.
It sounds absolutely made for tourism, doesn't it? And as a visitor, now we're able to get out and about and leave our homes and be encouraged to go places. It sounds absolutely made for that. Are there any objects that you can't use? And that's a daft question, but I was just thinking about, kind of some of the objections that come up internally, oh, I bet it can't do X, Y, and Z. Are there any limitations to objects?
I think really, I guess my short answer would be probably not. It's all about what makes sense for the user. We've activated everything from kind of bridges to large fish statues to benches to guards. So really, it's just the limit of the imagination. But what we do try and make sure is just that it makes sense for the user. So, if they're talking to a parking meter, then it makes sense that they're going to get information about that parking meter as opposed to the history of a statue on the other side of town.
Yeah. And where's this large fish statue, Tiernan?
It's actually in Belfast.
Okay.
So it's called the Big Fish.
What else would you call a big fish?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Good question that's come in from Katia. I'm chairman of a parish council. We're looking at a project to do with improvements. Could Hello Lamppost work for us? What sort of costs are involved? Brackets, appreciate you might want to pick this up offline, but yeah, parish councils, is that an area that you could get involved with and you'd be happy to have a chat with Katia offline? Yeah,
absolutely. Hopefully Francesca can drop in contact details into the chat, so feel free to reach out. I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's just a matter of scale, and the platform is pretty scalable from citywide to urban towns and villages. Sorry, rural towns and villages, rather.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. Question from Ben Capper. Has there been any experience of using this approach in terms of town centre regeneration or urban design?
Yeah, good question, actually. Yes. In short, I think we sit at the informal consultation end of things. But one thing that we have done and do quite a lot is direct people towards the more formal consultation, whether that be an external tool or a page on the council's website. So we've worked with a number of boroughs around, one in Ealing, around West Ealing's regeneration, in London, through to actually, one of our deployments in Sydney in Australia is all about areas around the harbour, which are owned by government bodies, but they're mandated to plan ahead and shape those areas based on visitor and community feedback. So we're doing that on a continuous basis, and actually the first tranche of that we started working with them in November, that feedback and input from the community and visitors has now shaped the vision and the plans and the designs for those areas, and that's going to go through to construction. So we've kind of gone full circle now.
And it's certainly something we'll be using in Maidenhead. So our soft launch rollout is in Windsor. In Maidenhead, we have got a huge amount of redevelopment going on, and it's because it's not all council led, it's very confusing for the resident. So because there are lots of different developers involved, so that it's very hard to have one clear regeneration message. So we'll certainly be using HLP in Maidenhead to explain that regeneration story and get people to input their ideas as well.
Yeah, and it's a good question, actually. I mean, one additional point just to add is we tend to be able to help at every stage of regeneration as well. So, before anything's happened and it's in consultation phase, but all the way through to, I can't say too much at the moment, but we're going to be launching on a large redevelopment site in central London on construction hoarding. So passers-by, residents, visitors will be able to interact with the actual hoarding during construction as well.
It's a really interesting one, that, isn't it? I think it's a challenge that I know I've had when I was in-house, but regeneration happens and the scaffolding goes up, the hoardings go up, and people say, oh, get some nice things up quickly, could you please? And, that costs money, takes time. So that could be a really nice solution for, all the building sites all over the UK right now. We've got a question from Anna. We've covered it a little bit, but what are some of the examples of changes that have been made as a result of councils and universities getting feedback through Hello Lamppost?
So I guess I mentioned a couple. So a city in Canada using Hello Lamppost to engage a record number of residents, predominantly around their city tax budget. So essentially resident feedback, saying what they want their taxes spent on, that going through to decision making for the city. Working with the university in Vancouver all around student well-being, so actually improving the university experience while improving student well-being. So especially during the pandemic, that university in particular has a high proportion of international students who remained on campus throughout the pandemic, but everything was pretty much shut. So things like identifying loneliness, allowing them to still experience the campus whilst there was no staff there, all the way through to individual projects where we've improved kind of resident safety and air quality in particular areas. So we worked with the Borough of Southwark in London, where we, as part of their consultation to close streets outside of schools to improve safety and air quality, actually they used Hello Lamppost to gather that input from residents in order to support the permanent closures of those streets. So that's a couple of examples.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tiernan. So Kathy, from your perspective, when you're doing work, to support the high street through, what's been difficult times, if I'm a local business owner on a high street that you're working, how do I get involved as a business owner? Kind of what's in it for me? Where can I get involved in this?
Getting involved with Hello
Lamppost.
Lamppost.
The work that you do to rejuvenate high streets, but also the technology around Hello Lamppost. Can businesses actively get involved in this as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've been doing is we've been actually training businesses in Windsor and in Maidenhead and helping them with tools to go online and to help them be a little more resilient. And so helping them to promote Hello Lamppost themselves, to use the technology, and to help them be an advocate for the platform. So in Windsor, we've also been asking them to share their stories, their inspirational stories, and just generally be part of our brand ambassador program. So just getting them involved, building awareness, being part of our community, that's been a real cornerstone of our campaign over in my rural borough. It's been really important for us to have their support as we implement not only the My Rural Borough program, but also we're calling it Hello My Rural Borough, which is the Lamppost Hello Lamppost campaign.
Fantastic. Sounds good. Mindful of everyone's time because we've just got about a minute or two left. So any final words from Kathy, Tiernan or Steph? Just final words before we let people go and get some lunch and a bit of sunshine?
I think from my perspective, it's just it's not easy, community engagement. And, I think it's something that you need to stick at, and also don't be disheartened if you're struggling to engage with people. You need to keep going. But also you'll have some amazing highs when you get that engagement from a business who hasn't engaged before. You get that idea from the community that is a just stonking idea and you can make it happen. So it really is, it has its highs and lows, but it's so rewarding when it all comes together. So it's not easy, but stick in there, and it's gonna, I think, hopefully mean that we recover well out of the pandemic.
Brilliant. Thanks, Steph. And well done for all that you've done during a really genuinely difficult time for local authorities. Kathy, any final words of wisdom?
I was just going to say that it's just been an incredible journey going through this reopening process with everyone. And it's really exciting to see them, the borough, using this digital technology to engage their audience. And it's exciting to see what's next. So I can't wait. And don't let your guard down.
Never let your guard down. Thanks, Kathy. And so we'll leave the final word to Tiernan. And so, kind of final thoughts to sum up.
I think just the underlying thing is I'm excited for the future of community engagement. I think we're at a point now that maybe we've never been before, in terms of digital tools and technology, but also the potential shift in what the pandemic has done for communities and for community engagement. I think it's allowed us as a society to be more open to engagement, care about engagement more, and be more comfortable with tools, but also on an organisational side, so whether it be local authorities or others, also be more comfortable with digital tools and digital platforms. So I'm excited for the future of community engagement and the future of kind of localised democracy.
Brilliant. That seems a good note on which to end it. So, I mean, thanks to all three of you on the panel. Really useful and interesting session. Certainly open mind to a couple of opportunities around some of the comms and engagement work I'm involved with. Obviously, an email will come out to all the attendees with a copy of the video. Obviously, there'll be contact details in there. So if people want to know more, want to speak to you direct, all the contact details will be in there. Thank you to everybody that's attended. I hope it's been useful. As I say, it's always good to catch up. I think there'll be a survey as well in the email that comes out. So just give us some feedback. You know, we're happy to run more of these and on different subjects and talk about the opportunities, certainly to support the high street, tourism, low traffic neighbourhoods, regeneration, and everything else that you're all out there delivering busily. So yeah, once again, thank you for giving up your lunch time. My top tip for the day is don't go straight into your emails. Grab a coffee, grab a sandwich, go outside for 20 minutes, get some fresh air, and really enjoyed your company, and we'll see you all again soon. Thanks all.
Thanks, Darren. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you.